If you smell what the Rock is cooking.
Welcome to Billy Ho Sports. Thank you for tuning in. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and don't forget to like and comment on the videos. I hope you enjoy the show. Now, let's go. Hello, Billy Ho here. Week 7 game stacks video for DraftKings. And before I start, welcome to my channel, Billy Ho Sports, BHS for short. And quick announcement, we still are going to do the $250 free contest for 250 subscribers. So I'm putting it on you guys. Get out there and share the love a little bit. You know, I'm not asking for much. Just click the subscribe button. I usually tweet out a link that'll take you right there, and all you got to do is click yes. So that'll get her done for you. And it will be a free contest, main slate. Whenever we get to 50, we run it. So follow the Twitter link in the description, and also check the description for links to the Discord, links to the weekly contests, both PGA and NFL, and support the cause, man. All right, week 7, we've got our biggest buys yet. Bills, Rams, Vikes, Eagles, all big plays there sitting this week. And I think advantages will be had with the lower totals. If you looked at the first thing Billy Ho always does, 11-game slate, is look at the totals. And we only have one game over 50 and very few over even 45. Few up around 47, 48 is about where the target zone was, because a lot of those teams have higher or as high implied totals. So let's, without further ado, let's take a look. And once again, the afternoon slate is loaded with all our favorite games. So if you want to just be contrarian, don't play the late games, but you may suffer the consequences. So Seattle and the Chargers, Los Angeles, start us off. They are that 50-point plus total. I believe 51. It's a pretty juicy matchup. You got Herbert coming in at 7,200, always an expensive stack with the Chargers, because you got Mike Williams also 7,200. And if you have the return of Keenan Allen, he's 6,700. So Josh Palmer's questionable. Keenan may sit. Actually, I was watching a pod today that he's actually saying that he might not mind taking another week off. So we'll have to see. Just keep a monitor on that. We'll know in plenty of time, most likely. If he's going to skip, he's probably going to know Friday. I always love the cheap Seattle receivers, Metcalf and Lockett. Lockett's got a Q tag, non-participant hamstring. I think he had that last week, but it wasn't. It was a non-issue, so he might just be getting a Veterans Day of rest. Like I said, Palmer's been a little bit of a letdown. He got a ton of targets, but I don't see him doing that again, especially if Allen comes back. I see them running the ball a lot, so Eckler's in play, and he's also good to stack. But like I said, that's expensive. With those high-priced guys, I think it kind of forces you into a guy like Gerald Everett at 4K in your stack. If you go that route, I don't think that's a bad play. I think Gerald Everett will be fine by Sunday. I do believe he was just had an illness, so he's good there. The Seattle side does seem kind of scary after last week. They showed their true colors, and they're going to be a more running heavy with the emergence of Ken Walker. But he's in play always. Geno at 5,600. I still think they're at the Chargers, they could possibly get behind in this game if the Chargers come out firing. So he may be forced back into one of these big time throwing like shootout kind of things where he's chasing points. And of course, I always like those Metcalf and Lockett's, like I said. And this D. Eskridge down here is kind of interesting. He had a little bit of a pop. So I might keep an eye on him as a low priced target. Overall, though, this game might it's going to be super popular, especially on the LAC side. So we'll see where we're at. I'll keep an eye on it. I think there are other ways to get around it if it does end up being the most popular. Another one that I'm still on the fence on popularity. I think it'll still be popular. People love the Cowboys. I do. And we're going to get Dak back this week. I feel pretty confident. I'm really glad that they sat him. They talked about him playing last week, and I thought that's an awful spot to bring him back. Sunday night football on the road at hostile environment, Philadelphia. You didn't want to trot him out there, but I like this coming back in one extra week to get the throwing down. See, he doesn't even have an injury designation. Full practice Wednesday, full go, and he's at home against a very vulnerable Detroit defense. I still think they lean the run game because Zeke's looked a lot better, and Zeke has actually separated himself over Pollard a hair bit, like a 1.5x, like say 42 snaps to 24. Not really that bad, but say 36 snaps to 24, something like that. But I don't know that I'll be down with the running backs. Zeke, if I did play one, it would be Zeke. But the wide receivers, hopefully CeeDee Lamb's fine. But if you want to shoot for Dak, you're probably going to want to have Lamb or Gallup. Gallup might be sneaky 5,100. He could get targets. And then you got ancillary guys, Noah Brown. But the guy I might have interest in is Dalton Schultz. Dak always liked Dalton Schultz as a safety blanket. And we don't really know. I mean, Schultz has missed week 3. And he hasn't had a lot of targets since the first week. So hopefully he's back in the mix, and he might be super low key. 3,600 is cheap. So I love that play. I'll be having some Schultz anyway, even in one-offs or single mini stacks or whatevs. So it's time to fire up those Cowboys. And then on the other side, you've got ASB back and healthy. St. Brown, he's 7,100. Let's see, what's Jameson Williams looks like he's still out. So we're not going to see him just yet. But we've got DeAndre Swift should be a go, and he's a pass catching fool. So he's a good guy. I don't know if I'll go with Goff in a stack because, I mean, even in these shootout games down here, although he did have the monster, I mean, I don't see a 45-48 shootout, but I could see him throwing 40 times easily. But this is probably the toughest defense he'll face. Dallas Cowboys DST, I don't mind as an ancillary stack. I mean, obviously you can go Zeke Dallas D as a stack. This is the game stacks show, not the QB stacks show. So I'm going to try to start shouting out some of these mini stacks. So, and then you run it back with ASB, or you still have Hawkinson at 4,800, which is expensive. I'd rather play Schultz. You could play like Zeke, Schultz, Dallas D, run it back with ASB or Swift. Don't mind that. So on to the next game. And KC and San Francisco back down to the lovely 4 o'clock afternoon slate. And like I said in last week's video, and I just didn't even change it, if you're going to stack Mahomes, I don't know that I'll run double. Obviously, Kelsey is in play, but there is also Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He could see that Fournette type game. He hasn't had a couple of good games here recently, though. Let's take a quick look. Buffalo, yeah, see, they've been in a couple of grinder type games here lately. But I don't know that they get out ahead. We also need to keep an eye on those San Francisco defensive players because they were missing 7 starters last week and lost another cornerback, Chavarius Ward, who was the guy they actually picked up for depth this year. So he went out in the third quarter with a groin injury, so he might be out. Jeff Wilson is interesting because he put his team in a jam by fumbling early in the game. They got down 7-0, went to 14, and he was scripted out. But he could once again get his usual workload, and I'm sure that's what Kyle Shanahan will be looking to do is reestablish that run game, keep Kansas City offense off the field as much as possible. You might see some Coleman, but I'm hoping maybe we get some flop lag on that Jeff Wilson. And obviously Debo and Ayuk are in play along with Kittle. I don't mind Kittle. He showed up a little bit more with the full load of targets, but they were way behind in that game. If they get behind again, there you go. So looking good. Now, that's pretty much all I got to say about that game. Obviously, you're going to stack Mahomes. Jimmy G, I'm not 100% sure about. He would really have to be behind because he was behind last week, and he still only got to about 19 DK points, throwing 40 times, at 296 and 2 touchdowns. So even these cheap guys just barely cracking 20 ain't going to get it done. Now, maybe this week, although I will retract that somewhat with the lower totals, a cheap guy getting over 20 might do it, but I'll look elsewhere probably. The next game up, I do have a lot of interest in, and it's also 4 o'clock, and that's Houston at Las Vegas. Derek Carr is once again, he's that guy 5,900 in that bucket where you're going to need a lot of throwing. So, like I said, this is game stacks, not quarterback stacks. So, if you don't want to run Derek Carr, everybody's smash play of the week is probably going to be Josh Jacobs. I still don't think he gets a ton of ownership just because he's Josh Jacobs and people just don't like him. But he's been getting a shit ton of attempts. And so coming off a bye week, he's also alive in the passing game. So he may not go overlooked. You see back-to-back 30-point weeks, and it's like, oh, it's on now. So he's probably going to be a lock button. And like I said, if he's going to catch 5 passes, you could run Carr out there with him. I got no problem with that. I do it anyway. Now, the one thing that I am interested in, and I already mentioned it in the Discord, is Darren Waller with this hamstring. I didn't practice Wednesday. I haven't seen his status today, but he said McDaniels hopes to have Waller and Foster Moreau available for Sunday, but he wasn't ready to make any kind of prediction. So 50-50 at best, honestly. So with that said, Hunter Renfrow, 4 targets in his first action back. I think he'll get a ton of snaps. Mike Hollins is on the Q tag as well. So he's going to get a lot more work this week. At 4,900, he's too cheap. I think he can 4X that easily. He can have one of those 8 for 90 games, and maybe he gets in the end zone. But I like him to pay off along with Adams. Adams is still going to get his targets. And then your run back is going to be obviously Cooks. And Pierce is still going to get, I think, his big-time workload. I don't think they get extremely blown out because Las Vegas can shoot themselves in the foot a lot of times and help teams stay in games. So I like that. And I think, let's see, one more game, maybe 2 more. The next game I want to look at is Cleveland and Baltimore. And I'm not a big fan of this because I'm getting kind of tired of smash spots for Lamar Jackson, who has a hip injury. He keeps missing throws, and then guys keep dropping the ball. So not down with that. But if you want to roll with it, go for it. The hip issue, I might not be a big deal. Coach doesn't think so either. Using Brissett is a stretch, but this might be a week to tempt me. Amari Cooper has been getting a ton of targets. I say a ton, y'all. And but the guy I might be interested in playing is Donovan Peoples-Jones down here at 4,100. He's got he hasn't really shown upside yet, but he's shown some pretty decent consistency the last 3 weeks. So Baltimore's defense is not scaring anybody through the air anymore, and they're really not even all that great stopping the run. And your boy Nick Chubb might be back in action this week. He has had some big games against Baltimore and at Baltimore in the past. So I'll keep an eye on that. But that's really just a quick one. But the next game is the last one on the list, Atlanta at Cincinnati. And I think this is a 47 total with the Bengals implied for 27. My first impression is this is somewhat of a trap game, and I think others are probably seeing it too because the Falcons seem to be getting dissed again. This is what their defense has allowed the last 4 weeks. They gave up 14, 21, 20, and 23 in the last month, and they're not exactly against chumps either. I mean, they held San Francisco to 14 last week. They held Tampa Bay on the road to 21. Cleveland, yeah, but Seattle, has been at Seattle, so and they've been fairly potent. And the Rams that first or week 2 was kind of garb at LA, so that was the one probably bad spot for them, but still 31 points. And they allowed 27 in New Orleans first week of the season. But like I said, their defense last 4 weeks have been solid. People are going to, don't pardon the pun, but Chase is in chasing points with that big 7 reception, 2 touchdown game. Go for it at your own risk. They're both keep an eye on these 2 guys because they are questionable and limited in practice. So practice? Mariota has filled the void of this weak-ass rush game since Patterson went down. So if you want to play Mariota, it's purely on rushing upside. The last 2 weeks, he has gone for 50 and 61, and he's always a threat to get in the end zone. So it's not a bad play at 5,500. And, he might be able to stumble his way into a passing touchdown along the way, and maybe he gets over 200 yards. So, you get 8 plus 4, 12, and then another 40, 16, and, maybe get away with that. I don't know. But that's not a game I don't think I'm going to be interested in targeting because the Atlanta defense is pretty good, and I think Cincinnati's defense is formidable at home as well. Just real quick, I mean, they've only allowed they gave up 26 on the road to New Orleans last week, but, 19, 15, 12, 20. This game screams under. I don't know where they're getting this over total. But, it is what it is. Everybody's got their own opinions, right? And that's going to do it for the first show of the Week 7 slate. And it's the Game Stacks show. Appreciate you watching. Don't forget to subscribe and follow that Twitter link. And weekly contest, as always. Until the next video, see you soon.